Imagine waking up every day to the same crumbling apartment, the same old radio broadcast filled with cryptic warnings, the same neighbors knocking like clockwork, and the sun? It hasn't shown his face in months. This isn't just a bad dream, this is Funeralopolis, Last Days, a free indie horror game that quietly crawled out of the shadows and left players deeply disturbed. Today we're taking a deep dive into what makes this short but powerful experience so unnerving, from its minimalistic story and implied lore to its haunting atmosphere and brutally honest themes about loneliness, routine, and the end of the world. Funeralopolis Last Days is a first-person narrative horror game created by Banana Jeff. You play as an unnamed protagonist living in an apartment in a fictional Polish city of Huta-Grobno. I think that's how you say the name. A name that literally means tomb foundry. The city is suffocating. Thick clouds cover the sky. The streets are empty, and an ever-present sense of doom clings to every surface. From the very first moment, the game makes one thing clear. There is no escape. There is no outside. You live here, you wake here, you listen, you observe, and you try to survive. And there's also quite a suspicious activity coming from the church. But do they have any correlation with the ends of the world? Hello friends. Never mind the mess in the back. Never mind how sweaty I am, you know what I'm saying? I just came back for a run, and truth be told, I wanted to start these sections at the beginning of the video, correlating with the topic at hand, talking about whatever the video game may be talking about, and pulling it in a positive light. I started a video recording before, and I didn't like it. And so I felt like I was thinking too much, and I went on a run, and now I'm back. And I think I figured out what I want to talk about, you guys. In this game, routine is a huge thing. We see the main character, or you will see the main character, very obsessed with his routine, which is wake up, transcribe everything he sees on the transmission, listen to the news broadcast, and then rinse and repeat. And while this game points it in a negative light, I want you guys to understand that routine might be a blessing. I know it's no fact that a lot of people sometimes feel like they're lost, right? They hit a certain threshold in life, let's say graduating college, graduating high school. What was once a very linear path has now become a spiraling path where you can go so many different ways. You're hearing so many different opinions, and you kind of lose your sense of self. You kind of lose what it is that you wanted to achieve. Having no routine does not mean you are lost. It takes time for other people to gather their routine, and I think a routine isn't something you think about and implement. Obviously, you can implement little fractions of things that are going to go down in your routine, but life has a way of structuring how your day-to-day basis will go. If you wake up and you start doom scrolling on TikTok, that's not a routine, because every time you go on TikTok, something different will happen. So why not you put the phone down, you get up, maybe do some stretches. You're going to love that in the long term. Or maybe just make your bed. Something as simple as that, kickstarting your day, will do so much. And if you still are struggling, maybe try some breathing exercises. Maybe you don't have to get out of the bed right away. Doing it every day, it'll get easier. But doing it every day is also the hard part. Routine isn't bad, but routine definitely shouldn't be constructed. You shouldn't be obsessed with a certain routine or obtaining said routine. Instead, just build little blocks towards it, and soon enough, you'll be there. Anyway, let's get into the game, shall we? The game begins on the title screen. Just alone, we can tell that there's a man caped in a silhouette. We are unable to see his face, and seems to be listening to the radio with his headphones on. When clicking start, we see a tram or a streetcar, depending upon where you live, and it makes its way down the street. We then pan over to a mystery man who seems to be watching this tram from his balcony. We can tell that there is something wrong. The clouds seem to be darkened. The protagonist himself says there's not many people outside these days, and the entire mood is just very somber, very suffocating. You can pretty much click on anything in the game and the protagonist will say something about it. Through this mechanic, we learned that 45 days ago, something with the air pollution happened, causing the clouds to cape in on the city and the sun to not shine through for almost 2 months, causing all the citizens to all remain at home. However, he doesn't believe it's just a natural occurrence. He thinks that the local church has something to do with it, or at least they're hiding something that had something to do with it. He would go on to explain that the church has been doing some weird suspicious activity as of late, and so one day he decided that he wanted to listen in on their transmission. He would install an entire orchestra of machinery that would allow him to do so. If it isn't already clear, this man is borderline obsessed. This will become a plot point later on in the video, but as of right now, just know that this has become his entire daily life. We can see evidence of this even. This man has notes, has pens, pictures, newspaper clippings, the whole 9 yards, all in his office. And now, honestly, this next part is just a big lore dump. But our protagonist, the overseer, has many notes on his desk and newspapers around the room. Each new item gives you information about the world and the events leading up to, well, current times. Let's start in his bedroom. On his desk, you can find a newspaper clipping. On it, the illustration shows a giant gaping hole in a small city in comparison right next to it, stating, Wednesday, April 1998, Central Mine, flooded. An underground source of unidentified liquid was discovered while working at the city's deepest open pit mine, Huta-Grobno. The thick, rust-colored substance flooded the bottom of the mine in less than an hour, and appears that the liquid level is gradually rising. Initial estimates by the research staff of the Church of Faith and Enlightenment say the water source is highly contaminated and poses a potential health risk. Work at the mines is suspended until further notice. The incident will have catastrophic effects on the economy of the independent city. So off the jump, we know it's been at least 45 days of this air pollution situation, and now we're being told that a highly toxic substance has been mined out, and the church were the first to find this rusted substance. Very suspicious. And in another newspaper we can find in the living room is an article by the name of Voices of the City. It states, unrest in the mines. Increasing numbers of KWIM, Huta-Grobno mine plant workers sent home over recent incident in the factory area. These identities remain classified in the official ruling of the Mine Council announced on June 10th. The article would go on to explain that due to ongoing toxicity and workers unable to actually, work, has caused stagnation within the company. So they have now begun to mine in the Eastern Front for the time being. But this is the most important detail in the newspaper. Sonda, 5 sent towards Mars. It will fly to the recently discovered third moon of Mars, Harmony. The probe was launched from neutral no man's land. Residents of the nearby town of Huta-Grobno could see a streak trailing behind the flying satellite in the night sky at 9:33 p.m. And then Ted would say, see what? We haven't even seen the sun in months. Mars' third moon, huh? It's such a strange detail that add apart from everything else. We have air pollution, a mystery red substance, and clouds littering the sky for months now. Then a space shuttle going off into space? Like, what does that have to do with anything? Unless it's meant to be taken as a lie or something to throw us off the actual trail, or it could be hinting towards something more outerworldly. And finally, our protagonist has a notebook, and here we learn more about him as an individual. From the notes, we are quickly able to deduce that this man is not great with people. He really only took up this job to work with the terminals, as he's very good with machinery. He even states, I imagine this job involved working with terminals in much bigger capacities than working with people. I also never got to meet the previous overseer. They reassigned quickly and with no notice. The council cannot seem to get in touch with them to this day. Our protagonist was so into his job that he failed to realize what was happening in the last month. He would buy a newspaper and get caught up on the news and found all the news to be strange. They often mention things only happening in the city, not the mine incident itself. He also mentions how he's been hearing rumors about how the church has been super involved in the mine incident and has been suppressing information. This curiosity would only grow as time moved on. We would read in his notes month after month just how much more infatuated he has become with the church, and just how much he began to obsess over the idea of how suspicious they were. Another very interesting thing we learn about our protagonist that the overseer before us had just up and quit without any type of notice. So with the protagonist not being the biggest people person, he was lunged into this career choice without much say so. Many of the clients, many of the residents, many of the tenants do not like him. It's only become worse as he just spends days on end in his room and is most times not willing to help them with the overbearing task of overseeing everything that happens within the building. And as I stated before, he is very good with machinery and decided he would just like to listen in on their transmissions. So he modded his radio, obtained a transmitter, and began transcribing all forms of dialogue, but nothing interesting. It's all been idle banter coming from the church, but alas, we still listen in. Now finally we get into the game. Going over to the recorder and the transmitter and the radio, we actually hear a live broadcast. The broadcast basically says that today marks the 45th day where the air pollution has gotten much, much worse, stating, "People are advised to stay indoors and don't leave their windows open as the air can negatively affect the lungs," scientist says. We still don't know the source of the city's air pollution, but the right people are working on the problem. It is very clear that the protagonist doesn't believe a thing they are saying, but going to another channel, we hear a conversation at the church. Had another competition in one of the closed sections of the factories. 2 of our people injured. Severity of injuries is mild and non-life threatening. 5 quarantine factory workers have been compromised. 1 suffered a fatal injury. We can't determine the type of hazard we're dealing with, so approach the scene with caution. After listening for a while, my nigga Ted, that's his name now, by the way, gets hungry and decides to eat. But first, we're actually able to see ourselves in the mirror. Oh, we got a reflection? This is what I look like? I look like a Ted. Ted Horoscope. That's my full name. Same old, same old. Going into the kitchen, my man Ted throws the pot on the stove, makes some dumplings, and eats the shit like it's the last meal on earth. After he was done, he went back to the radio, as he didn't want to miss anything important. When listening in on the private channel of the church, he hears a conversation of this mystery liquid they're calling the soup, and it actually has harmed and affected workers who was in the very mine. The personnel on the radio goes in to explain that they were down there, and then the sudden increase caught them off guard. However, they were able to escape and immediately were transported to a medical wing. And then he ends off the transmission with something a bit scary. He would say, "I think I saw its surface move today." When finishing up there, Ted would hear a strange noise coming from the kitchen. When going into the room, we can see a strange hole in the wall, and no matter how much light is shined into it, it just remains a void. Ted, wanting to see if he could see it from the other side, would go outside in the hallway and check from the stairwell. Anyway, I'd really appreciate if you didn't sneak up on people like that. Yeah, sure, yeah, sure. So, is there anything, going on, or? No, not really. It's nothing you have to worry about, dude. But, well, if you say so. Alright, Adam, get the fuck out of here, Adam. What you loitering for, nigga? Get out of here, bruh. I'm way too close. By the way, do you know when the janitor's coming back? Some lights in my apartment are busted and it's getting annoying. I'm sorry, he's just extended his sick leave and we can't find a replacement. Oh, bummer. After running into Adam, Tad would go off to sleep. But suddenly, in the middle of the night, he is startled by a noise coming from the hallway. We actually see a blackened figure at the very end of the hallway. When going to investigate, we actually see that it's Adam looking outside the window. When walking to Adam, he would tell us to just look. A huge crowd of people are outside. The church is outside, extorting those people we heard on the radio. And for whatever reason, they seem to be putting a bunch of civilians on a tram. And unfortunately, the head honcho Forever Ore Farming looks straight at us as if we're the next target. That's a lot of people outside. It looks like there's a whole fucking building out there. Yeah, it seems like it. And they're all loaded into their train. What the fuck must have happened there? I don't like this. Yeah, no shit. I wonder... what? I wonder if we'll hear about this in the news, you know. Oh, I really don't think so. But we'll see tomorrow. Yes. Ted would go back to sleep, and when waking up, it is now day 2. Ted would go on about his daily regimen and first go to the radio, listening on the news. The broadcaster would state that many people are trying to leave the city, but informs its listeners that that may not be the smartest idea. With everyone trying to leave the city at the same time, transit is packed, and sometimes trains don't show up at all, just because of how over-encumbered they are. The broadcaster would go further, saying, those who even want to try to walk to the nearest city, it is a grueling hike, and it'll take at least 2 days. And then, of course, Ted will go on to the private channel,
reporting 1 fatality. The guidelines we received have proven insufficient. I understand that they are subject to constant change, but they have failed us. They didn't prepare us for the event that transpired. Please update them as soon as possible to prevent further endangerment of the crewman's life due to these avoidable mistakes. From now on, all marked buildings confirmed to show dangerous activity must be placed under mandatory lockdown. Relocate all uncompromised residents immediately. Let them take their valuables. There is a chance they won't have anything to return to.
Can my apartment be marked for the thing in the kitchen? It doesn't look that serious, but maybe I should take another look at it. Now understanding that his building was indeed next because of the anomaly in his kitchen, Ted goes over to look at it to see what the big deal was all about. And all he can see is that it's just a random hole that seems to be emitting a low hum sound. Wanting to do some more investigating, Ted would go and get his recording machinery. Someone's playing music, Mrs. K. Turn that shit down, Adam! Adam! Alright, turn that shit down, homie! I know what you're doing in there. There's 2 things you could be doing. Spanking the worm or dead. But needing some wires, he would go into the office and grab some there. While he was grabbing the cables in the office, he would hear some foreign voices that he has never heard before. And since he was doing something a bit suspicious, he decided to just wait them out. But unfortunately, the head honcho of the church walks right in. Understanding that we are the overseer, she begins to question us. She would ask if any of the tenants that live here has seen anything strange, any anomalies. Now here, this is the only decision you can make within the game, but it deviates the story quite a bit. You can choose to be truthful about what you've seen in your kitchen, or you can lie and say you see nothing out of the ordinary. The quicker ending is definitely telling her the truth, so we'll go with that first. Actually, when telling her the truth, we get a cutscene. And so the churchman came into your apartment. What they saw seemed to greatly alarm them. And it was a good call to tell them, you think. But there was something else that had caught their attention. Your eavesdropping on their channels has been found out. Normally you'd be arrested for that. But your technical skills seem to be more important for them. And so you were given an offer. Declining wasn't an option. Not that it really mattered. It all happened too quickly. The residents weren't evacuated in time. and they were in the heart of it all. Doomed. You were safe in the church HQ when it happened. Not that any of the actions would have changed anything. Just the guilt remains. It was a good choice to make. Alright guys, welcome to the portion where we take a little breather. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm gonna just let y'all know, why don't y'all hit the subscribe button, you know what I'm saying? Do the Holy Trinity down there. Like, comment, subscribe. But you know what, if you haven't subscribed already, maybe just wait until the end of the video and then decide, because I'm sure I'm gonna earn your subscription. And secondly, what I love to do is I love to ask and get closer to my viewers. A lot of my viewers are not from America. I'm starting to realize a lot of people are all over the world. And so when I ask these questions, a lot of people are like, well, I don't even know what that is, because where they're from, like whether it's from the United Kingdoms, the UK, or they're from some other continent at that point, it gets a little misconstrued. But I do love talking about food. And my biggest conversation that I've been having lately is food debates. I've been going down this rabbit hole and I've been loving every second of it. And one that has recently caught my eye, which is 3 of them, but I'm gonna just save those for the videos later down the week or whatever. But the one that caught my attention is ketchup just a smoothie. Think about it. So a smoothie is just a collection of fruits. Whether you put ice or milk or whatever you do to make your smoothie, you blend it up and turn it into a finely diced, extremely finely diced substance that you are allowed to drink. So why is that any different from ketchup? Ketchup is base tomatoes, and then there's other stuff, obviously, but tomato at the end of the day is a fruit. So are we saying that ketchup is both a condiment and a smoothie? Because if we're gonna say that, that means all smoothies you make are technically condiments. You can technically take blended pineapples or whatever the fuck you're making and use it as a condiment. I'm just saying, is ketchup a condiment or is it a smoothie? Let y'all know, you know what I'm saying? And also, if you guys have made it this far into the video, I love saying a catchphrase that people don't really know until they get into that part of the video. And so today we're gonna say, what are we gonna say? Overwatch is better than Marvel's. Let's get it going, bro. Y'all gonna see so many comments talking about some Overwatch is better than Marvel. You might get a little hate. I'm gonna be down there. I'm gonna go up to bat for you though. Anyway, let's get back into the video. I just wanted to stop it, make a little light of it. You know, it's been very sad and somber and depressing so far. So yeah, is ketchup a smoothie or is it a condiment? And are all condiment smoothies technically? Boring. Yeah, boring. Very boring. Boring. That end has left so much unturned. I still want to know what the hell is in the kitchen. I still want to know about the mystery red substance. Well, what happened in the mines? What was all that about? Why hasn't the sun been shown in months at this point? The ending has not shown you one thing that the game was building up to. But hey, maybe that's the entire point of this ending. At the end, it does say it was a good choice to make. Maybe every stone doesn't need to be unturned. But the second choice, maybe that'll give us some more insight on what's really going on here. And so naturally, we take it all the way back to the meeting of the church scientists, and we basically lie our ass off. She asks us if we found anything weird, and of course we say we have no idea. When she inquires as to how we don't know this information because, you know, we're an overseer, we explain to her that basically we're not very liked by the people in here. So maybe the tenants wouldn't even tell us, if something really was going on. She sighs and is annoyed that it has become more work for her. When going back to our room, we continue with what we were doing and begin recording the hole in the wall. And then the sound becomes even clearer, distorting us. We then feel sick and go off to bed. When nauseatingly stumbling to our bed, we would be transported into this red fleshy place that looks like something straight out of Berserk, the Eclipse. It was unclear if this was the red substance that we've been hearing about or if this was entirely something different. But in the middle, there was a door, and when opening it, we would come back to reality. We never went to bed, we simply stuck our hand in the void of the wall, and when yanking it out, our hand is gone. Blood begins to pour down everywhere, all over the floor, on the walls, on our clothes, and then we lose consciousness. Then this brings us into day 3. We awaken on the kitchen floor. The puddle of blood has filled the kitchen, and not wanting to come off suspicious, we clean it up immediately. And of course, we go to look in the mirror, and well, our hand is back? Somehow, some way, our hand isn't gone, but it is now completely red. When rushing into the restroom and trying to wash off all the blood off our arms, off our clothes, and everything, our hand remains to be beet red. While we're getting all cleaned up, we would hear a knock at the door, and when checking the peephole, it was actually Mr. G, another tenant. Our hands still being super red, we don't really want to just open it up for anybody, and so we just crack the door open. What you want, nigga? Yes, is something the matter? Mr. G, close the fucking door right now. Mr. G, did something happen? There is a problem. A light at the end of the hallway is not working, and the sparks, they come out when they turn on. Janitor's not here. Can you fix it? Can't you just not turn it on until the janitor shows up, bro? No, sparks can cause fires, and fires would be bad. It's your job. Take care of the problem. Take it to the problem. Yeah, bro. I got you, bro. Just give me a moment. Good. And so just to shut him up, Ted ends up buckling and tries to fix it himself, grabbing his toolkit and walking up to the door, and he actually does end up fixing the exposed wire. However, while doing so, Mr. G would open up his door and grab our hand to see it. And of course, we jerk back and ask what the hell it is that he's doing, but this man is a certified tweaker. Mr. G, I help you and this is how you fucking repay me, you crackhead? What is your problem? Mr. G, that was highly inappropriate. Nice bandage. Nice bandage. Nigga, is that blood on you? Yo, what you do, man? Just wanted to see. See what? What happened to your hand? What happened to your hand? There's no concern of yours, bro. I'll be going now. I'll see you in hell. The fuck, my nigga? Man, open up. I'll see you in hell, my ass. What's wrong with this guy? Man, fuck you, bro. However, looking closely, you can see that there are some red colorations behind his neck, and maybe some on his back. It seems like whatever has happened to us has also happened to Mr. G, which is caused by the weird behavior. Obviously, Ted is pretty freaked out, and so he just doesn't stick around long. On the way back, we actually do bump into Adam. Funny enough, Adam believed that Mr. G wasn't alive anymore. He'd been so silent and was just never seen in the last weeks. He thought he had died in there. But what's strange is that Ted apologizes if there was any loud noises coming from his room. Oh, and of course, Adam says there was no loud noises. He was as quiet as a mouse. And so he has no noise complaints coming from Mr. G's room. Just furthering the idea that Mr. G is now compromised just how we are. Maybe he had the same hole in his wall. And the day simply just gets weirder and weirder. After speaking with Adam and going back to his room, he would listen to the radio. And apparently a bloody incident had just taken place right outside our apartment. And sure enough, when going on the balcony and looking down, we do see something. Somehow the hole in the wall and the sudden earthquake correlates with one another, and of course when going outside and checking if everything's okay, we see firsthand what he meant by nobody likes him. We check on this middle-aged lady smoking a cigarette and she completely blows up on us, stating how we don't give a shit about anyone in the apartment and that we are simply so self-centered and we just hold up in our room. Obviously, this hurts Ted's feeling and so he retreats back to his room. But I'm also kind of just low-key thinking like, I didn't make the earthquake happen. Or like, let's say there isn't a crazy hole in my wall and I didn't stick my hand in there. I didn't make the earthquake happen. Why is she mad at me for? Why she say fuck me for? And Ted basically does what he does best and goes back to that damn radio to listen to the church.
The guy just wouldn't shut up, and the screaming, I couldn't tell whether he was just in pain or just mad. Unfortunately, we didn't get there before he lunged at some random pedestrian. At first, we thought he was covered in blood, which was partly true, I suppose. But then we got a closer look, and we realized it wasn't just blood. His entire body was fucking red. Blood red. We got him transported to the labs. Maybe they'll figure out what's going on. The thing is, when my teammates apprehended him, after making contact, their exposed skin showed symptoms of extreme irritation. I really hope it's nothing, but it did not look good.
I've had enough of this day. I'm getting really tired and my head is starting to get worse. I better take some painkillers before I have a full-on migraine. Unable to take the pain anymore, Ted would go to the bathroom and get some pain meds. When coming back, his door would be open. Someone was watching us. But of course, Ted, being delirious, confused, and pretty much just wanting to go to sleep, he just ignores it and would go off to sleep. Not before blocking the hole, of course, because he probably should have done this way before, but, you know, better late than never. And ladies and gentlemen, this next section might be some of the most pivotal, some of the most important details of the game so far. When going to sleep, we would wake up one day, question mark, question mark, question mark. Everything is dark, everything is blackened, you can't see a damn thing. But when wandering around in the darkness long enough, you do manage to read some notes, our notes, but they're different this time. And within the notes, it showcases everything we've been dealing with. What the fuck is going on? Oh shit, this is the infection. So it starts off, if you get wounded by something, like our hand, if we touch something, like the officers, then you quickly get these little red marks on your face. Oh my god, they're becoming lacerations upon your face. Holy shit. I grew an extra arm. Holy shit. It was never a hole. It's this thing. Yo! Whoa! Oh, it's hatching, bro. Something embedded itself in the fucking wall. Its face looks like this. We fucking put our hand in its mouth. It chomped it. It fucking chomped it. Whoa, and so I'm guessing we're in the stage 1. He said you got someone in the wall. Yo, that's so cool. I love that. Holy shit. Look at this. Can we read about this? That's right. The hole in the wall was never a hole. It was an entirely different being. It was something organic, something alive. We had stuck our hand inside this thing's mouth, and now we're infected. We would actually see the process of this infection, this red substance infection, from figure 1 to figure 2 to figure 3 to figure 4, and finally to figure 5. Such an expansive lore drop. We'd of course go to the radio, and this time without hearing a church council member or a news broadcaster, we would hear something far more demonic, something more parasitic, something scary.
Imagine your face melts down and falls off every day, but you pick it up and mold it back together. Would you make yourself a new one? How long would it take for you to get bored of repeating the same thing every single day? You know, after a while, you can stop caring whether your face is still there or not. It's easier this way, and it's not like anybody cares. You won't have to imagine that now.
We then walk over to our bed, and instead of seeing it empty waiting for us to sleep in it, we actually find a fleshy monster that has taken our place. Disgusting. Get off my bed. It is my bed, my place to rest. You and I are the same, placed at different intervals of time. I don't believe you. You brought it upon yourself. How was I supposed to know it would end up this way? Don't worry. You're welcome to your fate. Don't fight it. I never wanted any of this. It's not about what you want. It's about what you do. And it's about what the world does to you. Don't fight it. I will. I don't agree to this. This interrogation. There's not much you can do now. It'll be okay. It doesn't hurt. You won't be alone. Day 4, we awaken. Our hand is now completely transformed. First, we awaken to a knocking at the door, and when looking outside, it's Mrs. K. Her husband is non-responsive and she needs our help, but we just aren't in the mindset nor the physical capacity to do so, and so we tell her off. After doing so, we go to the radio. It wasn't all in Ted's head. Everything he had been suspicious of was indeed true, but now he simply has gone too far in. And ironically, the news broadcaster that we have been listening to for the duration of the game has finally begun to ask the right questions, and the man listening is the one who holds such details. But unfortunately, when going to the church private channel, it sounds as if they were already on their way. We have been compromised. They know what we have done. As they sit outside trying to knock our door down, it's far too late. Adam comes out of his room, his back fully red. Mr. G, who was perpendicular to Adam, blood begins to pour from underneath the door. We have already infected the residents living here. And to make matters worse, it seems as if some catastrophic event has begun to take place. The monsters that we just learned about begin to roam the streets, and not just one or two, but a heap of them come crashing into our city. And of course, one looks straight into our eyes. Are you sure about your choices? And that'll conclude the game. It is a interesting game, to say the least. I really enjoyed how deep and expansive it truly gotten, because it just really didn't feel like it was gonna go all that deep. I truly thought it was gonna just be like another The Hole, right? And The Hole is a very psychologically based game. Everything takes place in your head. You are slowly diving into madness. I had originally begun to think that maybe this whole thing is about routine and obsession, and how that can mess with your mind. When you want something to be true, you will make it true. In Spec Ops: The Line, you play as this soldier, and he essentially does some heinous things, but in order to cope and make himself feel better about what he's done, he tries to justify it and tries to make it make sense. He tries to say, I had no other choice, I had to do these things. And of course, I'm not going to spoil the game. You should just watch my video or go play the game, link in the description, I up there. And then another game that does the same thing, Firewatch. I haven't talked about Firewatch on my game or on my channel at all, but it is a very interesting thing. You play as this protagonist who goes out and he's in the forest, watching the forest in the Firewatch. However, there seems to be some weird things happening. He wants something so desperately to be interesting rather than mundane and boring that he constructs this entire ordeal. And when you finally figure out what's truly going on, it's reality inducing. And we see the same thing coming from here, or at least that's what I thought was going to happen. But then it really expanded outside the realm of human psychology, and it really went with something so out of the normal, so out of existential. Like, I don't even know the words to use, but it was a really, really good game, and I really enjoyed it. I love the pacing. I love the art. I love how disturbing it was. God, I love the atmosphere. The music was amazing. But at the end of the day, we need to talk about what is actually happening in the game. What is happening? But before I can share on my conclusions of like what the game was, I really do want to talk about what makes the game so enticing and some of the finer lore points. And then I'm going to wrap around and tie it in a knot basically and talk about what I truly think is happening. The structure of Funeralopolis is deceptively simple. You'll live through a series of days, each marked by waking up in your apartment, doing basic tasks like turning off the stove, changing your shirt, or answering a knock at the door, and going back to sleep. But within that repetition is where the game gets you. Every day the tension builds. Something feels slightly off. The hallway looks a tad bit darker. The knock sounds a little bit more urgent. The radio static carries new warnings. And the people, you start to dread what you might be on the other side. And not because there's any monster, but just because you don't want to speak to anyone outside. You don't want anybody wanting your help. You don't want to deal with them. You can almost feel the social anxiety coming from the way the game is played, where you start, first you open the door wide open, then you slowly begin to just crack the door, and then you speak through the door. I love the gradual change, and it's kind of symbolic in a way. This repetition becomes a prison. And the longer you stay, the more you realize the walls are just closing in. One of the game's greatest strengths is the environmental storytelling. Funeralopolis never spoon feeds its lore. Instead, it leaks it through radio broadcasts that mention escalating violence and disappearances, through neighbors who act stranger each day, and through the protagonist's slowly disorientating mental health. There's talks of an infection or perhaps a societal collapse. Some have interpreted it as a supernatural force corrupting the city. Others see it as a metaphor for depression or a reflection of pandemic isolation. But the most haunting part is that we never really know. Like the clouds above the city, truth remains shrouded. This ambiguity makes the horror feel personal because your brain fills in the gaps. So what exactly makes Funeralopolis so disturbing? It's not the jump scares or the gore. It's not even the violence, really. You don't really see anything. You just hear about it or the aftermath. It's the unrelenting atmosphere of decay. The apartment feels like it's rotting. The lights flicker just enough to make you second guess what you saw. The radio mutters fractured messages like a prophet losing their mind. Even the character's breathing becomes a source of anxiety. But more than anything, the horror lies in how normal it becomes. Not being chased, you're just living endlessly, meaninglessly. The game captures that existential dread we all feel sometimes. The fear that life might just continue on, getting darker and lonelier, and there's nothing you can do about it. And of course, our man Ted tries to fight against that very notion, but he ends up just latching on to something that he wanted to use as a scapegoat. It must be the church. The church must be behind it. But ironically, at the very end, we see nothing but the church trying to help. He does find out that the church was suspicious, but that's because they were trying to keep the mass hysteria at a low. They were trying to evacuate buildings that have been compromised with these beings, and they try to move them out of the city. But to Ted, he just wanted a scapegoat. He wanted someone to blame for why his life has become so miserable. You embrace the creeping horror, becoming a monstrous part of the apocalypse. And the other, you resist it, but at a cost. You survive, but your neighbors don't. You're left in a dead city, fully alone. Either way, the game doesn't let you, quote unquote, win. It's not a power fantasy, it's a slow, inevitable slide into despair. And your only real choice is how you face it. Technically, the game is modest, made in Unreal Engine and playable on low-end machines, especially my potato ass of a computer could run it perfectly. But it makes every pixel count. The apartment feels grossly real. Water-stained ceilings, yellowing wallpaper, flickering CRT screens, and the sound, it's oppressive in the best way. And at its core, Funeralopolis is about entropy. It's about the slow unraveling of civilization, identity, even time itself. It echoes the feelings many had during the lockdown: isolation, repetition, helplessness. But it also taps into older fears: the collapse of your urban life, the weight of existence, the idea that the world could not end with a bang, but with silence and static. It's a mirror of our darkest anxieties. What if this is all there is? What if this never gets better? What if the clouds never go away? What if we never see the sun again? What will we do then? And now for my favorite part, the lore. I love talking about the lore. And also, guys, if I'm a little tired looking right now, it's because it's 6:41 a.m. Don't ask me why I'm up this morning, but I am. Anyway, let's talk about the lore, shall we? So personally, that's 3 times right there, boy. The game gave us everything we needed to know. But in order to understand it fully, we need to first segregate or separate everything that I find to be super, super important, but didn't really correlate, but they will correlate story-wise, right? So first and foremost, we have the mines. Whatever happened at the mines has caused this mass infection, right? When you touch it, your hands get red. People think it's irritation, but it's really this red substance that infects you, turns you into whatever we saw. And then you have the clouds, the toxicity, the air pollution. Now, that could correlate to the mines, or it could just be something totally different. And then you have the church. The church seems to have found this red substance, whether on purpose or not. It seems as if they knew what it was and how to identify it. And obviously, through the broadcasting, we can hear that they are not perfectly adept at fighting these things, but they are enough to understand the dangers and to proceed with caution. So we have that. And then we have the side plot, the moon, the 5th or the 3rd moon for Mars or something like that. So I truly do believe that these monsters that are walking around, prancing around in the second inning that we got is actually from Mars, the 3rd moon of Mars, actually. I had always found that was like the strangest detail. They're talking about mines, they're talking about these mystery clouds that just came out of nowhere. We're talking about this red substance at church and involving itself in a mine incident. Doesn't even make sense. But in all of that, the strangest thing is the 3rd moon of Mars. Why in the world did they tell us they discovered that? I think an asteroid hit down on Earth, like some fucking A Quiet Place, and foreign invaders came from the skies. The reason why I say this is because this also correlates to why the sun has not been shown in weeks. As you know, when the Earth was struck by a large meteor that killed all the dinosaurs, it had hit with such an impact that the dust clouds had risen up and had blocked the sun for years. And I truly do think that an asteroid has struck down and it caused an influx of dust to form these thick clouds in the sky, causing the air to be polluted because, well, it just brought in a shit ton of radiation from the Earth's space thing. It said, you know what I'm saying? So I think that is why the cloud and the air pollution is the way that it is. And I also do think that the beings that we see at the very end of the game comes from that very asteroid. Now, to talk about the red substance. The red substance could be something that is just naturally a secreting substance coming from these beings. Just similar to how animals in some instances can secrete natural poisons, natural psychedelics, or even secrete venom. I think all these things could be true to whatever being this is. You see how big they are. So maybe this red substance is a form to vulnerabilize, if that's even a word, its prey, that being the human civilization, and it slowly just infects people. But just as a lot of animals do, they wait for the most opportune time to strike. So instead of just going out and causing mayhem, they watch, they stalk, they embed themselves in buildings where residents live. And so they become cracks in the walls, and they don't move until we slip up and we make a bad decision, like putting our hand in it. Then it chomps down on us, and even still, it lets its poison seep in. It lets us get infected. It lets us become so discombobulated that all they have to do is walk and stare, and we won't be able to do a damn thing. And where the church comes in, I think the church is probably one of the first individuals, or one of the first groups, organizations to have found this asteroid. Because when you look at the mine, I had always found it to be so strange of how big the mine was. It looks like the mine wasn't a mine at all, but more so a crater in the earth. And I think that is where the asteroid landed, created a crater, and I think the scientists organization found it, they investigated, and of course they found something they didn't like. But they've been trying to combat against it for a while now. Understanding that buildings can become compromised, understanding that these things only truly fight or attack when most opportune. And it's also another reason as to why, for some reason, when in the first ending that we get, our main character Ted is totally fine at staying at the church's HQ. It's almost as if it's almost as if the church's HQ understood, and they've, I don't know, implanted some device or some defense mechanism as to not be compromised. And I think that is the full length of the game. It is all a man who is dealing with his social anxiety, dealing with routine, repetition, and wanting a scapegoat, finding that said scapegoat who was connected to something much deeper than he could ever truly know. An asteroid coming straight from space into the earth, embedding these creatures from the outer world to embed themselves in our buildings and stalk us as we sleep, making us hallucinate, our arms slowly becoming infected, becoming weaker physically. In the most opportune time, they come in and they stare straight into our face, and it's easy eats. GG's, goodbye, you're done. And I think that's the full length of the game. I truly do. I truly enjoyed this game. Like I told you, I really enjoyed how expansive it got. I really enjoyed how short it was first, in comparison to how much information was given. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel long. It felt just long enough to where I really enjoyed what it was talking about. And again, I'm just gonna echo what I said at the beginning of the video here. Having too much of anything is bad, right? If you're so dependent on this routine, so dependent on making things work out just as you planned, you could be stifling your growth as a human being in your own lifetime, right? I don't think it's necessarily bad to not know or have a routine, because I do think routines are normally something a lot more organic. You will wake up one day and realize all the things that you need to be doing, well, you're already doing it. and you'll just become more and more effective. Just trust the process, okay? I know that life can sometimes feel like it's just throwing you curveballs left and right and you don't know which way is up. But truly, 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 just try to take one step a day and just get to that goal of yours. But don't feel like you need to get there immediately. Just as Billy Joel said, you can't be everything you want to be before your time. So what's the point of trying to rush through all the dialogue, all the cutscenes, all the things that life has for you just to get to a destination that you had no business doing? Another interesting thing that I actually want to talk about that furthers what I'm actually speaking on right now is this movie by Adam Sandler's called Click. Now, if you don't know that movie, I mean, that's okay. Not everybody loves Adam Sandler's. It is very much a jokey movie. It is about a man who is fed up with life and all its. He has a nagging wife, he has children, his job's taking forever to get to where he wants to go, and he finds a remote controller that allows him to pause time, fast forward time, go back time, da 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 da. Obviously, it has some parameters that he breaks, but I digress. He skips everything, and at first it's amazing. He skips the whole month and he wakes up and he's like, I have the job that I've always wanted. He skips some more. Things start to get a little weird. Oh, I fell out of love with my wife. Now I'm not with her. He goes even further in life. He's old now. His relationship with his dad is fucking terrible. He's like, I've become an asshole, but there's no going back. There's no going back. And honestly, I think you guys should watch it. It is a very big theme of don't rush through life. Just enjoy what you have at that current moment. Whether, you have to take the good with the bad. And unfortunately, everyone has to go through bad times to enjoy the good times. And I say this to say, don't rush a routine. Let it naturally come to you. One day, implement something. One day, implement another thing. And one day, you'll have a routine. But do not obsess over that routine. Don't be married to a certain way things need to go. And just flow with the wind. Don't say no to things just because you're unsure about it. Try. And if you're struggling with mental health, and if you're struggling to get out of the bed, and you feel like you can't even do the bare minimum of getting out of the bed and wanting to wake up, try very little things. Let's say getting up and working out is too much for you. So why not just breathing exercises? It helps. I promise you it helps. And little by little, when you do these things, you empower yourself. You give yourselves almost a placebo effect. You start to delude yourself in a way. I am cool. I am this. I am that. You get up. You start to stretch. You get up, hopefully. And obviously, if you still are struggling with that, just surround yourself with people you love. Surround yourself with people that love you. Surround yourself with people that make you feel good, or at least indulge yourself in conversations of people that make you feel good. And hopefully, they'll help you one by one, and you'll get that routine going. And before you realize it, in retrospect, you look back and think how silly and how ultimately that was the best choice you could have made. Anyway, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching. I'm sorry I went on a Yap session, but I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out.